Hello and welcome to the Bike Lane. We've got a big episode in store. But first up, welcome Scott and Wade, and congratulations to you on becoming a father.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I had a little Warnie baby the day of the Melbourne to Warrnambool he was born. And thank goodness for the nitrous oxide, because I was able to flip through Twitter and listen to it on the radio while my wife was in labor. So
was that you on the gas or the wife on the gas?
We both were, yeah. But I was in no pain.
She won't be watching this episode, will she?
She better not.
Otherwise, you'd be in big trouble. Yeah.
That's like having the headphones in when you're at a wedding on grand final day, but maybe a little bit worse.
Yeah, I pushed it.
Yeah, that's really. I hope the phone was down to the side as you were checking those updates. One thing we've seen a bit of in the news lately has been Cadel Evans. He normally attracts our attention, and he's made it pretty clear that his target for 2014 is the Giro and then the World Championships. So the likelihood is his season has to start a little bit earlier, and I've heard that he's pretty close to making a decision on riding the Tour Down Under. That is great for South Australian tourism. They'll be delighted. But Australian cycling, it's a great result if we get Cadel to race in Australia.
Look, it's fantastic for fans of cycling in Australia. And look, Cadel did a great job in 2010 when he rode the last time, wearing the rainbow bands as the world champion. Actually, I thought the whole season he really did the jersey proud. He did a great job of that. Performed very well. He was great on Wollonga Hill, and he'll be fantastic again this time. It's great news.
Yeah. You'd make the trip just to see Cadel. I think a lot of people would, with the risk of maybe the last chance to see him race in Australia.
Well, you're asking the wrong guy, because I would make the trip to South Australia for the Tour Down Under anyway. Yeah. But I think Cadel will attract another crowd. It just brings it, the profile to the race.
A lot of people are keen to retire him off at the end of next season. I don't want Cadel to retire, because he attracts a lot of attention. He attracts mainstream media coverage, which the sport really struggles to get.
He's a super talent, right? He's an incredibly talented athlete, so really it's up to his mindset as to how long he wants to go for. He's already said that he doesn't think he'll win a Tour de France again. He's not going to ride it next year. Hopefully he can win the Giro d'Italia on the podium in 2013, but really it depends if he wants to step back a little bit, maybe over the next couple of years, as to how long he can go for, because he's talented enough physically to go for as long as he wants. And look at Jens Voigt, look at Chris Horner, these guys. I know we've had our debate about Chris Horner, but Cadel Evans certainly could go into his 40s if he wants to.
And he's targeting the World Championships at the end of the season as well, so I can't imagine that if he did win the world title that he'd retire on the back of that. Let's wait and see what happens. But next up, it's Simon Gerrans answering your questions. Any questions for Gerro? Thanks for sending in your questions. We got a lot of them. We couldn't put them all to Simon, but we did our best and had to sneak in a few for myself, including, is Simon the secret pro? So Simon, when you look to your left and you see that yellow jersey, what goes through your mind?
Plenty of emotions go through my mind when I see that, and when I think back to what went into it and sort of how much hard work went into getting that yellow jersey, it's pretty satisfying.
So why'd you give it away? And at what moment did you decide to give it to Daryl Impey? I
decided to give it away to Daryl, funnily enough, the first day I had it. About mid-stage, I was sort of assessing the situation, how I ended up in the jersey, what great work that Daryl did to help me win the stage on stage 3. And then obviously he was an integral part of the team's time trial. And I was just sort of enjoying the experience, and I thought, you know what, he's done so much sacrifice to put me in this position, and it's a life-changing experience. And mathematically I had the opportunity to keep the jersey for 4 days. But whether I had the jersey for 2 days or 4 days, it really wasn't going to change my life from then on. But it was obviously going to make a pretty big impact on Daryl just by getting the opportunity to wear it once. So I said to him, I think it was about 20k to go in stage 5, that I'll keep it for tomorrow and then it's over to you. And literally within 2 or 3 minutes, he was picking himself up off the deck because he'd crashed in the next group pile-up coming to the finish.
The pressure of the yellow jersey.
The pressure of the yellow jersey was already getting to him, and it was still a whole stage away.
And what about the importance of going to the top of the leaderboard in the Bike Lane's hot lap on the Hawthorn crit circuit out at Kew?
Well, that would just be like 3rd place behind an Ardennes Classic and the world title, I think, yeah.
The Tour Down Under, you've had success there and there's a huge crowd. What's it like for you to race up Wollonga Hill in front of a big Australian audience?
For me, that's better than racing up the Tour de France and climbing the Tour de France, Just have the Aussie support there, and for the past couple of years there, I've been racing for the win up Wollonga Hill. So to have the crowd on your side and really willing you up that climb, it's really like no other for me. It's pretty special.
You've locked horns up there with Alejandro Valverde. What do you make of your rivalry with Valverde?
I was thinking, what do you make of my rivalry with Alejandro Valverde? Because I think it's something that you, Matty, and a bunch of other journos have really made up. I think if you ask Alejandro about it, he'd be like, what rivalry, you know?
You're trying to win a race at the end of this season, you crash in the Tour of Spain. What's it like to ride 10 stages with a broken hip?
Well, I probably only rode 10 stages on a broken hip because I wasn't aware it was broken. I had a little fracture there and it wasn't too bad, and I sort of lost a whole bunch of skin in the crash, so I was sort of not real comfortable anyway. So I thought it was just sore from the crash, losing skin. I thought I might have strained my hip flexor, but it sort of got progressively worse rather than better, to the point where it was excruciating, so I thought I should get it checked out, and funnily enough we found it was broken. And
finally, are you the secret pro?
No, I'm not the secret pro, and I'm not a big fan of the whole secret pro concept. Yeah, I'm not one to hide behind pseudonames. I think as a professional cyclist, we don't have the luxury of saying something and pretending it wasn't us. So I'm not a big fan of the whole secret pro concept on cycling tips, but I thought it was cool anyway. Why are you asking me?
Fair to say that Simon Gerrans isn't the biggest fan of the secret pro.
Well, I understand his point, but the anonymity of the secret pro is essential for him to be able to say what he wants to say without him copying it and dealing with the repercussions. And in all fairness, it does go through an editing process, right? So that we are aware of libel laws, and we don't do it just for the sake of spreading rumor and innuendo. And we do see the irony of this anonymous guy going and doing the same things we all hate from anonymous commenters. So it's completely legitimate, and he has to stay anonymous to be able to do this.
Yeah, look, I totally get your point, but for me, if I wanted to make people believe that I wasn't the secret pro, I'd say I'd hate him too.
So you're suggesting that Gerro's the secret pro?
I'm not suggesting anything, it's just the tactic perhaps I'd use.
Well, what do you think? Let us know your thoughts on the secret pro. Are you with Wade, or are you with Scott, or are you with Simon Gerrans? The track season is slowly getting underway, but it appears as if nobody is interested.
Well, hey, hang on a minute. I'm interested, Matt.
Yeah, you're biased though, because Scott, he reminds us pretty regularly, a bronze medalist at the Olympic Games and a gold medalist as well. Somehow you managed to pick up one of those.
No, I am interested. I know what you're going at here. With track cycling, it's been overshadowed by road, but look, I am a fan of it, of course, and we need to do something about getting the interest back.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of track cycling as well. I started racing on the track, and my first commentary gigs were all on the track. But a media release recently from Cycling Australia announcing the squad for the first round of the World Cup, and I didn't read any of the article or any of the media release. I just looked at who was on the team and then hit the delete button. It is really struggling to generate interest, and I do love the track.
Look, and I don't disagree with you. Absolutely, track is certainly struggling, and I will blame the Olympic program and the changes to that. It's now just your sprint events are quite popular and quite strong, but it's only team pursuit and the Omnium for the endurance events, which has pretty much eliminated your Mark Cavendishes and your mass start riders that come in and do a Madison or a points race at the Olympic level. And it's so pointy end, so cutthroat for the precision of a team pursuit or the multiple events, including some of the short ones for the Omnium, that it really does exclude so many of the current pros.
And a lot of the races that you rode, like the Amsterdam 6-day race, that's underway now. No interest in that. It's not as if it's going to get much TV coverage, even though Luke Roberts, an Australian, is riding. Plus, in Hollywood, they're trying to do a Madison series, and seriously, you could see the tumbleweeds going through the stands. There's nobody there at all.
But it's Hollywood, so they'll just Photoshop the crowd in. It'll be a massive crowd by the time that goes to air.
Do any of these races matter? Does it matter to you who wins in Amsterdam? Does it matter who wins in Manchester?
Well, over to us, not really, because most of the names you can't pronounce, you've never heard of them, and just like you said, most of the characters, the rivalries aren't even there, right? So, and that's what the sport is all about, the stories and the characters.
So what about you? Obviously, if you're watching this, you're a keen cycling fan. Do you care what's happening on the velodromes around the world? In January, when we had the opportunity to speak to Richie Port and asked him the question, who should we watch throughout the season? He named one guy, Jack Haig. He's now set to take out the National Road Series, but he still has ambitions on the dirt, and Scott caught up with him earlier on.
Well, it looks like 12 months ago, Richie Port was correct in his prediction that Jack Haig would be the next big thing in Australian cycling. What was it at that training camp, Jack, that you did to, I guess, impress or hurt Richie so much?
I think it was the second day of the training camp. We had a pretty long ride planned, and it was up a climb I can't remember the name of, and we just sort of started going up it fairly hard. Nathan attacked, and then Richie sort of followed him, and I was just riding next to him. We're sort of having a bit of a chat about things, and it sort of started getting pretty hard close to the top, and Richie was like, hang on a second, like, you're half wheeling me here, what's going on? And I was like, oh sorry, like, I can back off. And he's like, no, just keep going. And yeah, I managed to keep riding and managed to get to the top just in front of Richie, so that was pretty cool.
It must have been a pretty good feeling knowing, okay, coming into that, you'd come off the Tour of Bright, so you'd ridden really well there, but what are you expecting out of that camp? It must have been a bit of a surprise that you could ride with Richie.
It was actually. I did Tour of Bright with Dean and the Talk team, just as sort of a thing to do at the start of the year. I wasn't really expecting anything, and then Dean started sponsoring the Genesis team with product, and through that I asked him whether he'd be able to get me a spot on training camp so I can go for a ride with some of the top guys in Australia and sort of see where I was. I never really had any intentions of trying to join the team at that time. It was sort of like, let's go have some fun with some really good elite guys and try to learn a bit. And going there, I didn't really expect anything, to tell you the truth.
Well, you are now the National Road Series winner for the 2013. So what did you learn out of, I guess, what this has been just a flat-out year for you?
Yeah, it's been a pretty ridiculous year. There's been so much going on. And the learning curve for me has been huge. Not doing much road cycling before coming into the season, I think everyone in the team can see from Tour of Perth to now how much I've changed within the team. I know what's going on in racing now. I know the guys to follow. I can make attacks when needed, and I think at Tour of Tas it really showed that when I got outnumbered quite a lot, and then I managed to sort of keep it under control, whereas at the start of the year I think I probably wouldn't have been able to handle that situation.
What about professional on the road in Europe? What's the plans?
That's the ultimate goal for me. I'd like to ultimately be able to ride the Tour de France and be up there with a big Pro Tour team, but I need to make it to the Pro Tour first, and throughout next year I want to try and race some bigger UCI road races, and then after Commonwealth Games hopefully maybe get a stagiaire or try and do some big under 23 races like L'Avenir, and then yeah, hopefully progress 2015 to be able to be on a Pro Tour team.
Well, that's Jack Haig. He's got a big future ahead of him. Where's the ceiling? Is there one?
He's going to be doing some very big things on the road once he eventually crosses over.
He's risen to the challenge, because to have Richie say those things about him, it attracted a lot of attention, and that comes with pressure.
Like Bob Rich with Lance Armstrong talking about him.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't put too much pressure on him.
And that's hurt. I think that has hurt Jack Bobridge in some respects, but that's a completely different story.
Yeah,
the expectations are out of proportion. But Jack Haig is a name you'll need to get used to. Next up, we've got the health.com.au healthy living tips.
Well, the nemesis of all cyclists must be cramp. Dr Andrew Garnham, why do we get them?
We don't really know the answer to that one, Scott. There's some research around. Everyone's got a theory. We know about dehydration, we know about electrolytes, sodium, potassium, that sort of thing. We know about fatigue. But the dehydration, people have done the research. It's been shown not to be the cause of cramp. Electrolytes, likewise, not the cause of cramp. Magnesium, we don't have the science. Overall, it's a fatigue thing. We probably think it's a brain spinal cord mechanism, but the answer's not there for sure.
Okay, well, look, at the start of every season, almost every season, for the first couple of long races in Europe, I would cramp. But once I knew once I got through those first couple of races, then I'd be okay for months after that. That's indicating that it's more fatigue than anything else.
That seems to be the biggest factor, and so it's fitness, and so that's why we know that fitness carries through. And so in the context of racing, where everybody's trying to get that little edge over their competitor, you're trying to get the other guy to cramp before you cramp, so that the guy who cramps last is the one who gets over the line first.
He cramps last wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, if you are in a race and you do get cramp, is there some kind of magical cure that you can have that'll get rid of cramp straight away?
We'd all love the magic that works straight away, but one bizarre thing that has been shown to help out is actually drinking a little bit of pickle juice, as in, the water out of the pickled onions or something like that. There seems to be a little spot in the back of the mouth that stimulates the messages up to the brain and helps to turn off the cramps quicker.
What about magnesium, potassium, these sorts of things? A lot of talk about that with cramping.
Yeah, look, everybody knows that magnesium is a good idea, but we don't actually have the hard answer. Nobody, I think, has worked out how to design a research study that reduces the magnesium level enough to produce the cramps without doing bad things to the person on the bicycle.
Why isn't that research study being done then?
It's just very difficult to design it so that you don't make people sick.
Okay.
You've still got to ride hard and get a cramp.
So the keys are, if you don't want to cramp when you're racing, train harder so you have less fatigue when you're out there, and maybe you have a jar of pickle juice in the back pocket as well. I'm not sure if that one will take off.
You never know.
Ooh, cramp. We've all experienced it. We've all thought of ways to overcome it. It looks like we have to train more.
And it's always been an excuse for so many riders, isn't it, as to why they didn't win the race. I've got a few reasons why I didn't win races, and it was because of cramp.
So, solve cramp, train more. That's not an easy solution.
No. It's got to be a pill.
This week, the announcement Australian cycling has been waiting for, with Caleb Ewan confirming he'll be riding with Orica-GreenEDGE, but not immediately. He's delayed ever so slightly. He'll still be sticking predominantly with the under-23s in 2014. And Caleb joins us on the line now. Caleb, you had a fair few options. You had BMC, Sky, they were knocking on the door. AG2R Le Mondial were amongst them as well. Why Orica-GreenEDGE?
It just makes more sense at the end of the day. I think being an Australian team, and obviously me being Australian, and being in that development team, I think it's just the perfect path for me to go down. And I think just because they've got such good young riders coming into the program as well, and they've got good experienced guys that have been around for a few years now, so I can learn a lot off them, and equally I can have good fun with the other young guys that are starting their careers as well.
Caleb, a couple of years ago when you first burst on the scene as an under-19, you seem to be a young man certainly in a hurry, but you are delaying this step into the World Tour League. Why are you holding back a year? I think it's a good idea, by the way.
If you wait until you're maybe more than ready, you'll step up much easier than you would if you're sort of under ready, because if you go in too sort of soon, then I mean, you could just keep going backwards, and that's not really what I want. I want to just go there and be confident that I'm good enough to be racing with the pros. And the plan that we have now, I think I'll be able to sort of get introduced into the pro ranks a lot better than I would if I just went straight in on January.
Caleb, can you tell about the influence Cadel Evans has had on you?
So I met him really for the first time about 12 months ago, and he has different ideas to normal people, and he's been around a long time and experienced a lot of different things, and he's achieved what a lot of cyclists really want to achieve in their career. He's done everything basically, won the Tour de France, won World Championships, and a guy like that you can really trust when he tells you something, because you know he's had the experience with lots of teams and lots of races and stuff. So I think he's had a bit of an input, and you know he didn't just tell me to go to BMC like a lot of people would think he would. So yeah, he's been very good.
Caleb, it sounds like you've had some good people around you advising you. One thing I can assure you of is we'll be watching your career closely. All the best.
Thank you very much.
Caleb Ewan, he is an exciting prospect, but the one thing that has come out of this is Scott McGrory, you are really old because you raced with his dad.
That's true. And
Does it make you feel old when you see somebody's son come through?
Absolutely, absolutely does. It makes me feel really, really old. And that's why I didn't get any advice from me, because it's all prehistoric.
Do you think Caleb would beat Scott on the hot lap?
Big time, yeah, big time.
Plus, we're still lobbying Greg Henderson to do the hot lap to make sure of it. What are your expectations of Caleb? Because there's big ones on him.
It's interesting because we don't know what type of rider he is yet, right? Everyone assumes he's a sprinter, but you speak to
he's
coaches.
More than that.
Yeah, he's, you know, our dens seem to come up a lot. Yeah. That's, you know, he loves the power climbs, and that. Apparently he is a very, very good climber in the World Championships. I mean, you saw that he made it up that.
Yeah.
He's a Peter Sagan type for me.
Yes.
Yeah, he's very good, obviously, on the track in the past. He rode the Track Nationals this year, 4,000 metre pursuit, good times in that as well. Yeah. He can do it all. He's very much like a Peter Sagan.
Yeah, I heard him described once as a cross between Mark Cavendish and Philip Gilbert.
That's Peter Sagan.
So watch Caleb Ewan's career. It's going to be an exciting one. As always, this is one of my favourite segments where we get to address what's on your mind. What's the best training for a 15, 16-year-old to do to get to the highest level? You're probably the best place to answer that question.
Well, we're dealing with a lot of them now at the VIS and all of the state institutes, obviously, but they've just gone across the threshold, I guess, from 10 to 14, where it's really purely about fun, and you don't have to do anything specific at all. And I'd still actually go back to the old school and say, look, they should be out training or doing a race Saturday afternoon covered in mud from playing footy, if you're a boy. Or, still with the netball socks on while they're doing training in the afternoon. But 15, 16, you're starting to get to that crossover where you're getting very close to then starting to ride the under-19 category. And it's a big step up because at under-19 level, then it's junior world selection on the card. So you actually do have to have some sort of structure to your training. Not too much. Schoolwork is still the most important thing at that level. But
you're saying that with a smirk because I can't imagine you did that at 16. This is a guy who went to the Olympics at 18, so he wasn't playing football when he was 16, and I can assure you, I've spoken to his mum and dad, he was not concentrating on school.
How many hours a week would you have been training when you were 16?
Oh, look, I was going out motor pacing with the guys and doing a whole bunch of stuff. But look, I'd probably still think, and look, my parents used to chain my bike up to stop me from going out and riding it. So there is truth in that. I don't recommend that at all, chaining up your son's bike. But it's probably still, at 15, 16, you're still doing, 10 to 12 to 14 hours a week. And if you're really working on the track, then it's track training as well. It's the travel time to and from the track. Yeah. Look, I think, getting an ergo might actually be better for some of these young guys than getting onto the velodrome itself because of the time involved.
So time efficient.
It is. It's only the skills that you miss out on
but
from riding
fun?
the velodrome.
Is it key though at 16 having a coach?
A mentor.
Not a coach.
More of a mentor, someone just to guide you through those years. And I think Caleb's a good example of that. Caleb Ewan, he's had coaches through his life, but I think it's the mentors that are now shaping him to the next level. And I think having a good mentor, and I didn't have one. My parents didn't race back then.
Explains a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they just let me do what I wanted to do. But look, having a good mentor, and I think that's the key at this age.
Yeah, okay. So next one. This is Wade Wallace's What's on Your Mind. Cycling, has it hit saturation point with media coverage?
I've spoken to a lot of people who think it has. There's so much of it coming. None of it really grabs the attention of them. But what I seem to think is that I think there's a lot of people trying to do the same thing right now, grabbing the exact same press releases as soon as they hit my inbox. And I just think it's the quality of coverage in pro cycling that can be elevated, and I don't see anybody doing that.
I don't think we've hit saturation point because you look at AFL football and there's football shows on Channel 9, Channel 7, on Fox Sports as well, and they're all competing with each other, and it actually helps grow the market. And we're seeing this with the A-League now as well, that SBS has got the broadcast rights for the A-League now, and they're also doing other programs around that. It puts pressure on Fox, Fox put pressure on SBS, and that raises the level. Yeah. Cycling doesn't have that, and you've got to search really hard to find articles in the newspaper on cycling. We've got Rupert Guinness over at Fairfax, but there's nobody really competing with him at News Limited. But if you had somebody at News and somebody at Fairfax, and they were in stiff competition chasing each other, then your quality issue gets eliminated, and I think we're a long way from saturation point. You can see a lot of races, but you don't see much discussion about the personalities.
No, exactly, and that's what the big key with football as well. You see enough of the personalities of the football players to form an opinion on whether you like them or not. And you don't quite get that with cycling because it's all post-race interviews. Yep. Was it a tough race? Yes, it was. Hopefully I'll go better tomorrow. That's it. So we want to see more of the personalities of the riders.
Opinion makers, though, they can also cause a few headaches, particularly for some of the riders. Phil Anderson recently on an article on The Raw was really critical about those who just have an opinion. How about they go out on the bike and try and do it themselves?
Was he talking about us?
Well, he might have been talking about him and I, but not you, because you've got results. And that's actually something that I'm always really conscious of. Because when I sit there and commentate on Cadel Evans, well, I raced against Cadel Evans when we were both 16, 17, and I was really good for his confidence because I finished a long way behind. So I find it difficult to be critical of Cadel Evans because I know that level and I've never been anywhere near that level. So it's hard to find that right line. But then often that independence gives you a greater ability to be able to be objective about what's happening.
Yeah, and look, you don't have to, and we see it in other sports and other codes, you don't have to have been elite at that particular sport to be a very good commentator of it.
Yeah.
But look, and even myself now, when I'm commentating on cycling, I still like to talk to the riders, the staff, people there at the race to get a bit of a feel of what's going on within the peloton for that day or that week. rather than just sit back and give my opinion on something. I really still try to get their opinion into my commentary as well.
Do you avoid opinion and just do reporting?
I like opinion, but I am conscious that there are real people behind these athletes, right? And I try not to be too critical on them because I don't know what's going on. Even if I hear from other, there's always more sides to the story, and yeah, I'm always hesitant because I don't always think I have the full picture.
Yeah, it's a real challenge to get that balance right. Hopefully I manage to get the balance right. Sometimes I get it wrong, sometimes too soft, sometimes too hard, we'll see. Anyway, that's it for this week's show. Hope you've enjoyed it, and remember, keep the feedback coming. Tell us what's on your mind, and we look forward to joining you next week where the Hot Lap will be back. It got cancelled this week because of, well, we're in Melbourne. 4 seasons in one day, and we were rained out. And don't forget, Movember, we'll be growing mustaches in November.